Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Good to see some familiar faces and new faces. Just let folks trickle in here. All right. All right, everyone, welcome. We're going to get started by announcing our interpretation. So feel free to take it away. Awilda?
Hello, good afternoon. I am indeed, yes, the Spanish interpreter.
So what we'll be doing is opening up interpretation, and we'll be recording the English recording as well as the Spanish. If you need to listen in Spanish, feel free to click the globe icon at the bottom and select Spanish. If you're listening in English, select the globe icon and click English. And we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this information session about the request for proposals for outreach and interpretation for the Community Food Access Program. My name is Mickey Davis. I'm the program manager for the Community Food Access Program. We also have Kathy Chang here, our procurement director here at the Colorado Department of Agriculture, and Amanda Laban, who is the senior programs manager for this program and others. So thanks for being here today. We're just going to set the stage a little bit by orienting you a little to the program and the RFP. Kathy's going to walk us through how to log into vendor self-service, which is the portal where you can find the RFP if you haven't been in there already. We're going to bring up a few frequently asked questions and answer them. And then we're going to leave the rest of the time open for your questions. So a bit about the Community Food Access Program. The program's mission is to increase access to or lower prices for healthy foods in low-income and underserved areas of the state. So the means through which this program will do that is through a grant program and a consortium. And this RFP is looking for nonprofit organizations to help us spread the word and provide technical assistance to applicants for the consortium and the grant program. So a bit more about the grant program. These will be infrastructure grants that will pay for infrastructure or operating expenses related to increasing access to healthy food or lowering the price of healthy food. This is a really recent update, but House Bill 1008 has passed in this legislative session, which slightly changes some of the stipulations around our grant program. So the maximum award amount is $50,000, and businesses will be able to receive a grant once per year. So this is a slight change from what is in the RFP documents, and we will be updating those. A little bit more about the consortium. This will be an organizing body of small food retailers and small family farms with a budget to enhance value chain coordination, negotiate with distributors, be reimbursed for distribution fees, and more. And this consortium is in the process of coming together, and the priorities of what this consortium's work will do will be determined by the members of the consortium. So you can see we're really excited to get outreach started so we can really make sure that these grants go where they're needed most, and this consortium can start doing the work and be led by our small food retailers and small family farms who are committed to increasing healthy food access. So I'm going to hand it off now to Kathy, who's going to walk us quickly through the vendor self-service portal. And then I'll pass it off to Amanda, who's going to orient us a little bit more.
Thanks, Mickey. So I am gonna share my screen because it makes it a little easier for folks to see what I'm seeing and just show you where Color VSS is. So this link is available in the RFP document for folks who have not seen the RFP. It's available through the website that Mickey's been referencing, the food access webpage. And also I can put this in the chat so folks can access it while we're talking. Okay. Let's see. Just a second. See if I can put it in the chat. All right, so this is called Carl VSS. We use this for all of our solicitations at Department of Agriculture. Other agencies do a little bit differently, but for us, for this specific RFP, we are using VSS. Folks can sign up for an account. It is free to sign up. It's not required to set up for submitting our bid, but we do encourage it for folks because that will be a requirement if you get awarded. So, I mean, it makes sense to register now if you're serious about doing business, because we do need you guys set up for payment, vendor information, so we can issue encumbrances as well. So what you'll do is if you want to find the solicitation, you guys have access to the link now. We'll go to public access. It'll do a new pop-up and we'll search the solicitation number. And I will give that to you guys as well. Our system is not very friendly with searches, so you have to use that little asterisk instead of spaces. That's the easiest way to search a solicitation through the number. Or if you know you want to do a manual search, you can, but that will take more time. So here's the first one, which is ours. So, you know, as you can tell, see, there's the same number, but this is a different type of solicitation. Ours is this one. So you'll see my name here. You can certainly reach out to me and ask for questions or clarifications if needed. Click on the details. The summary doesn't provide much other than the same information here, but the details, it will take you to the actual page. You'll need to find the attachments. Everything here is downloadable. All you do is click the link. It'll do a pop-up, and then you'll open the file and you can view it that way. So this is the actual RFP document. It'll have, you know, general information here, same thing that you'll get across the board on the website. VSS. I'm listed as an point of contact for this RFP, but if there's any questions specific to the program or, you know, the purpose, I'll definitely pass that to Mickey and Amanda to clarify throughout this process. So this is a cover page. I'm going to skip through that, general information, and I'm going to point out a few areas that, you know, I find would be very helpful for folks. Here is all the attachments listed, the same as what's on the web page here. Okay. And these are just documents here for reference. These aren't required, but these are. Okay. And schedule of activity. So it's our timeline. We've already done the first info session, and this is the second one. We're not going to have any more. The time frame now, from now through June 14th, which is the submission deadline, is Q&A. So if there's any questions that we haven't answered already or have answered, but you aren't sure what the question answer is, just reach out to me via email. We do ask that be given in writing, because anything over the phone, it's not, I guess, on record. So to have on record, please submit it in writing. We have a due date to respond by June 7th. So there is already like a first round of questions. I do plan to get those compiled, at least get those out the door. The first info session has already been recorded and posted, available on VSS. The link to the YouTube site is available. So please double check that as well before you submit your responses. I will update what I can before the due date, but if I cannot, the absolute deadline for me is June 7th. So do expect an update on VSS. Once it's been published, you'll go back to VSS. It'll be included as another attachment. It's just a simple Q&A PDF document. We don't really use the Q&A list here because it's not very intuitive on our end. So we like to formalize that all into one document so you guys have everything you need on one page, one document. All right. And so please double check the scheduled activity. If there's been any changes, modifications, do check VSS because that will be all posted there. We will have a bid opening and anyone can attend. It is virtual. Attendance is not required to submit a proposal. It's optional for this meeting. So it's really for folks who want to see who submitted a bid and kind of get an idea of how many we got. And registration is not required. You can just hover over here. It'll take you to the Google meeting. It won't be through Zoom because we use Google at the state. Zoom is like an extra platform that it depends on the program to use. We're hoping, to evaluate from this time frame and hoping to award no later than the end of June, just because we have, a time frame that we have to stick to, and hopefully contract by a month as well. So there's going to be probably a maximum of 8 awardees for the solicitation. But we don't know yet. That is still our goal date. It's an estimated date, but we can work with those. And just a reminder, all proposals must be submitted through VSS. So the site here, anything submitted through email or other ways may not be accepted, especially through an RFP. If it's required, we can accept via email. Same here. This is all pretty much general information on RFPs, information on info sessions, the bid opening, it's a link here and also written out if you guys can't access the link for some reason. Auto modifications through VSS. And then the contract term is stated here as soon as we can get the contract done. So hopefully July 24th through the end of July 2024. But everything I think is due next calendar year, right? Mickey 24th. And then I'll let you guys read through most of it, but those are areas I wanted to point out how to go through VSS, reading the RFP. And a lot of it is, boilerplate, but some of it is pretty specific to the program. So mandatory requirements, scheduled activities, and pricing. We do ask that you put it through our documents. And it's clarified here that's 80 per region. And Mickey, you mentioned the bill has passed. So those modifications will be posted. I'll include that as a separate document. So do make sure you read through all the amendments and all the Q&A attachments. That's part of the RFP because all that together is the same part of, what we view as the solicitation package. All right, and then I'm going to skip to here. So this is where like the meat of the project information is. So please start on section 2 to better understand what it is. It does outline the regions and acronyms to help folks that aren't familiar with Colorado Department of Agriculture. We wrote the regions down by area and also a map to kind of help you understand, like, visual. I love visual. So hopefully this is straightforward. I'll let you guys take a look at that when you have a moment. And then Mickey, can you reiterate what this part means when it comes to the regions?
Or I think actually
award.
Amanda can,
Amanda's doing that.
yeah, she's gonna kind of spend some time looking at the regions.
Okay, got it. All right, so I'm sure you touch that. And then, this chunk here also reiterates, steps on what you guys need to do to submit it. I recommend submitting at least one day in advance because The system is not something I can control. It's another team at the state that will help you with submission. I can help with the solicitation part, but the submitting part, vendor access on that end, it's a whole different team. So they're only available during business hours. So if you're trying to submit a bid around like 6 or 7 a.m., they aren't available yet. But the cutoff time for our deadline is, during the business day. So should be someone available if you have issues at attaching, try to submit a bid. If you can't submit it by the deadline, the system will lock you out. So I always ask folks, submit a day early, but no more than like an hour or two. But it does take like 5 minutes for the system to refresh. So, do submit it early, play with it. You can submit it and re-edit it later before it closes. It's just after that, it's closed, it's locked. No one can touch it after that. All right, and then formatting instructions. So it's a lot of information here. I'm not gonna go through it in detail, but other than that, section 5 is like the meat of what you're gonna review and make sure you've completed the requirements of what's needed to submit a bid, what information we're asking for in detail. All right, and I think that covers my part. Wanted to show the ESS right here, and then the history. Don't worry too much about it. This is like every time I go in there and make a modification, it tracks my history in there, so you can certainly check that. But do double check all the attachments and additional information. I've got a lot of great information in here. If you guys want to look at the info session, you can copy the YouTube link and it's available there too. All right, any questions for me or anything that I can clarify? And don't worry if you don't have questions now, I am still available throughout the whole session. I'm just kind of hovering in the background. So, all right, if not, I'm going to give it back to Nikki and Amanda.
Great. Thanks so much, Kathy. Hi, everyone. So good to see you all. I just wanted to jump in and we're going to get to your questions and we're going to go over some of our frequently asked questions. But I just wanted to point out, we know that this is a lot of information. There's a lot of detail in the instructions. But our focus is on your experience and your knowledge in your regions. And those questions are captured in attachment A, that first document. And so when you're thinking about this, I would start with attachment A and I would fill that out. And then before you submit, you check the additional documents. Mickey put together a really nice sample budget with an example to give you an idea of, what we're thinking about with hours on the ground, with your outreach personnel, just the different tasks associated with the outreach and technical assistance. And so utilize those for your reference and to help you submit. But I just would emphasize, don't get overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork in here and, all the instructions. Like, focus on what you do, share with us what you do in your region. And Mickey, I'll hand it over to you to start going over the FAQs, and I'll bring up the regions map while you do that.
Thanks so much, Amanda. And yeah, what the spirit of this work is really to infuse funds into communities, right? And that's a really exciting part about this RFP, is getting to work with so many community groups that can bring together their collaborative experience and their deep knowledge of their specific areas, so we can make sure this program makes an impact in food access. So I'm just going to highlight 3 questions that we've gotten so far. One, what does technical assistance mean? What we're hoping for with technical assistance is, and this is outlined in the RFP, is helping small store owners and small family farms fill out a grant application, helping them submit required documents and understand what those required documents are, submitting receipts that will be required for reporting, being a liaison between the Colorado Department of Ag and the applicants for questions, helping folks sign contracts, and submitting reports. So that's sort of everything that's encompassed with All of these nonprofits here know what it's like to submit a grant. So sharing that expertise with these small business owners that have maybe never seen a grant before or filled one out. So a second question. Let's pretend your organization covers a small area that's split between two of these regions that Amanda's pulled up. How do you go about doing this work and submitting a proposal? Your organization has several options. You could collaborate with other nonprofits that plan to submit a bid for the two regions that you're straddling and offer to subcontract to serve the area that you have a lot of expertise in. So you could subcontract in both regions. And then there's all these other combinations of you could apply to be the main contractor for one region and subcontract in another. You could apply to be the main contractor in both regions. Just bear in mind that what we're looking for with successful proposals is really the extent to which your proposal, your organization is able to reach the areas, all the high need areas in your region, right? So we're really hoping that organizations will collaborate, come together to co-submit proposals as subcontractors under a main contractor. Happy to clarify a little bit more on that, but we know that we created these regions, and many of your scopes of work or your service areas may cross those lines or be a smaller area within these larger regions, right? So a third question we've been getting is, can a for-profit business submit a proposal? The answer is not as the main contractor. However, a nonprofit that wants to submit a bid can subcontract with an organization that has relevant experience, even if they are a for-profit business. So those are three questions we just wanted to address right off the bat. And now, with our remaining time, we'd like to open up the floor to your questions. Feel free to raise your hand or just simply come off of mute and ask away. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm curious if you have a goal of how many particular food businesses or small farms that each region should be attempting to get this grant to.
That's a great question. This came up in the last information session, and no, we don't have quotas to meet. We don't have a strict definition of what your how many businesses you should be working with on a weekly basis. We're really hoping to leverage the local knowledge and local expertise of the contractors who submit proposals, and we will be working with to help direct these outreach efforts to the businesses that will make the most impact in your region in particular. So we don't want to put too many bounds around that, because we know that some of the most exciting, impactful grant proposals for the Northwest region might look really, really different from the best proposal in the Southern Front Range region, for example. So this RFP, while it is a competitive process, it's really an invitation to invite in a lot of these folks who have already been doing this really important food access work to help make this program really strong.
I have another question.
Go for it.
So you had changed it. So before I understood that it was like $25,000 one time to a business. And now you're saying it's 50,000. So how many then of these grants are you able to award throughout the state?
Really great question. And this sort of speaks to the origin of this program. So this program is defined by our state legislature. So last year, House Bill 1380 defined this program. And in this legislative session, House Bill 1008 made those modifications. So you're right, it went from a max award amount of 25,000 to a max award amount of 50,000. And it went from a one-time grant to a once per year grant. So we're looking at a minimum of 5.5 million that we'll be able to award out. Yeah, with 50,000 as the max award, that definitely decreases the total number of applicants. And our advisory committee is in the process of creating that application process and that rubric of grant priorities. So we're also working collaboratively with that group to help define some of that criteria for the proposal, or sorry, the application process. So once we've hired contractors, we'll be working very closely with them. We'll be meeting once per month to make sure contractors and subcontractors are ready to communicate the details of this grant program clearly and effectively. But yes, it is all still being built right now.
And is the 5.5 million that is available, is that for the first year and then there's another 5.5 the second year, or is that just total that's going to be distributed through this program?
Great question. So the source of the funding comes from state and local fiscal recovery funds. So these are funds that are one-time COVID stimulus funds from the federal government. And it's a one-time amount of money that needs to be encumbered by the end of the year in 2024. And then must be spent by the end of the year 2026. So we're really going to be using these outreach contractors to help spread the word, get the word out, because this is a one-time pot of money for this grant program. Thanks for all those questions.
Mickey, there's another question in the chat, and it's the question about, can you be a TA and outreach contractor and apply for the grant?
This is a really good question. It's another frequently asked question. And we are working with our legal team and our support at the Central Contracts Unit to understand if this is a conflict of interest. And we're really working hard to get answers on that point. And we will announce that in our Q&A that we post on VSS and our website. But unfortunately, we don't have an answer to that right now. And I know it will really dictate whether many of the nonprofits out there apply. So thanks for your patience with that.
Okay, and another one, and I'm happy to take this one, it goes into the regions question. So Arwen asks, my nonprofit is in Gilpin County, included in the Central Mountain regions, but our service area is primarily Gilpin, Boulder, Jefferson. How would you recommend I submit an application for TA contractor? So Arwen, you know, this is up to your organization and your organization's capacity, but you are allowed to submit up to 2 regions. So you could submit to be a primary contractor in both the Central Mountain and in the Denver Metro, or you make a choice about which one you would, if you do more work in the Denver Metro area and Boulder and Jefferson counties, and you want to submit for that, and then subcontract with another organization that's contracting for the Central Mountains. You could be a subcontractor there.
And again, yeah, that's sort of the question I covered in the FAQs. Yeah, there are a lot of options, but bear in mind the successful proposals will demonstrate ability to reach the whole region, right? So yeah, collaborating with other groups to cover areas that that your organization doesn't serve is a successful strategy. Okay, it looks like Kathy has an answer here regarding the conflict of interest question. I would like to say that if we can get an answer sooner, we'll post that earlier as well. Great. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy's helping us look into that. Okay, Eric has got a question. Will there be assistance available from the state in language and interpretation challenges, i.e. translation of all the materials? This is a really good question. So our program does have a budget for interpretation and translation. So we are happy to leverage that. We're also looking for community groups that have those relationships in community. So interpretation might not be as necessary through the state, and it may just be that there is no language barrier between subcontractors or contractors and the groups being or the small businesses being reached and the languages they'll speak. We do plan to translate the grant application into whatever language is needed. So I don't know if that gets to your question, Erica, but please feel free to clarify if there's anything else.
And then Mickey, there are a couple that we missed. But that's okay. They kind of all came in at once. Erica, I did just want to give you a minute though, if you did want to follow up on that piece of translation.
That answered it. Thank you. But also, we have community members that are bilingual. I've just found that sometimes with especially governmental stuff and grants, there's language barriers that take that extra communication effort. And so that's what I was just wondering in this TA, is if there's that extra time spent on not just translating, but interpreting rules, regulations, and making them very clear.
So that's exactly what we are looking for in this contract work. We are hoping to use our contractors to do that relaying of that information, right? And we have translation and interpretation resources at the state, but we're really hoping to leverage those relationships that community groups already have in their community. So we have resources, and we're happy to leverage them. But this is a big intent of doing this work, putting out this RFP, so that we're able to not just provide interpretation and translation, but that this information can come from hopefully a friendly face, someone that's known in the community.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Erica, those are the hours. Like if you're spending most of your time interpreting documents, trying to go through regulations, those are hours that you're tracking and we're reimbursing you for through that $80,000. And so, you get to decide, within your community, is there going to be more time that needs to be spent on just helping understand what these documents mean and, what the regulations are. Or, are you going to be spending more time in like reaching out to new businesses that maybe you don't have a current relationship with? But as Mickey keeps reiterating, we're trying to get you to leverage the current relationship so that maybe you're not spending as much time, reaching out to new entities that you don't already have a relationship with. Not that that's not allowed. It's just you're determining, the makeup of your time in this work. And then, so this question a little bit ago from Brandy was, are you requiring audited financial documents? And I assume, Brandy, you're asking in the, like when you submit your application with the RFP? Brandy, do you want to come off mute and just clarify that question?
Yes, I was wondering if, since we're a nonprofit and adding in those different factors, do we need to show our financials, and do they have to be audited, or is that not a requirement?
So there will be not factored into the evaluation of proposals, but after contractors have been selected. So not going into whether or not we work with a contractor, but after that offer has been made, we will sit down with the nonprofit and do a risk assessment. And that risk assessment tool is a reference in the RFP. So you can take a look at that. And that will be, CDA sitting down with the nonprofit and simply assessing the risk based off of financial documents that the nonprofit has maintained. And again, it simply is for our record keeping as we, spend federal dollars. But that is the only place where audited financial documents will need to be shown. So feel free to take a look at that risk assessment tool. That's reference A. So it's not submitted in the RFP packet. And then take a look at the other attachments that we're asking for. And let me know if you have further questions about that.
Thank you, Mickey. I'm going to jump back to Carrie's question about conflict of interest. If a rep from your organization serves on the advisory committee, is our organization eligible to apply for TA outreach contract? So the answer to that, Carrie, is no. You are not allowed to apply. We shared that, when people were accepting, when we announced the nominations, and we asked people to, think about whether they thought they would apply as an outreach contractor and excuse themselves if so. So I'm sorry.
I'm glad I asked.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, then Arwen was looking for clarification, submitting for up to 2 regions. Does that mean separate applications per region? Yes.
So yes, it would be, you would have to submit 2 budgets, and in your narrative, you would outline your expertise in both regions. So it's not 2 full separate RFP submissions, but it is 2 full separate budget requests. And we will ask for, all of your qualifications and your proposed plan in one document. And you can double the page limit if that's the case. Erica, thanks for your comments there. Carrie, to your question, can we access this regions map after the call? Yes, this is on our website, and I'll drop the link to our website in there, and it's also on VSS within the RFP documents. Carrie, I'm reading your question confirming that nonprofits will accept this contract work as federal dollars and SEFA reporting requirements. Do you mind clarifying a little bit more on that?
Sure. Pass-through dollars from ultimate federal sources require separate tracking and a single audit for the CFA on your financials and compliance issues. And so is it considered and tracked as federal dollars per this contract to the, I guess, contractor?
This is a really good question, which we can get more clarity on. There is a difference between a contractor and a subcontractor. There's also a difference between a contractor, subcontractor, and a subrecipient. So to oversimplify this a lot, the reporting requirements for contractors are a lot less than the reporting requirements for subrecipients, which is part of the reason for the design of this RFP. But we can look into specifically what the what the CFA reporting requirements would look like for these contractors and communicate that. I do also just want to point out that subcontractors are under less reporting requirements than contractors. So in our attachments, especially the reporting attachment, we have notes on the top of each sheet about whether subcontractors and contractors are required to fill out this kind of reporting or just contractors. So Carrie, we'll definitely get back to you about those CFA reporting requirements. But let me know if I can clarify anything else. Really great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for asking away. Anything else coming to mind? Whether it's how to get into VSS, you know, details about the RFP or more about the work in general.
Mickey, Arwen did add another question. I'll just read it. Could you talk a bit more about how collaborative applications would work? Two organizations applying equally, splitting up the outreach work, etc.
So what we're envisioning is that various nonprofits with their area of expertise, whether that's the ability to connect with a specific cultural group or the deep entrenched knowledge of their specific region, or when I say region, I mean wherever service area your nonprofit reaches. Those can work together to create a really comprehensive plan for how to reach the entire region, and then how to reach together, these up to 8 contractors will be helping us spread the word evenly across the entire state. We want to make sure this funding isn't just concentrated in a place that always receives, support and funding. We really want to use these dollars to reach small businesses that have never received support before and have the ability to create a big impact in the food access landscape. And we want to engage as many nonprofits that are already doing this work and already have those connections as possible so that we can do this work quickly, efficiently, and that the communication about this program is coming from a trusted source.
And just to underscore too, with those subcontracts, so Arwen, in your example, say you decided to apply for the Central Mountains, but most of your experience is in Gilpin County, and you want to work with subcontractors in the rest of the region. When you identify those in your application, we're asking for letters of support to, just to confirm that you have had a conversation, that they're on board with doing this work. So just to say that that is part of the documentation, in addition to, naming the entities that you'll be working with. So I hope that's been clear to everyone.
And I'll just say, this is interesting. An RFP is a competitive process, right? So we are not able to connect you with other, interested applicants submitting a proposal prior to the close of the RFP period. So we recommend you reaching out to nonprofits, in the greater region and, see if they've already heard about this RFP. If not, talk about what you know about it and offer your expertise as a nonprofit that does work in this specific area. I will just note that laid out in the RFP is, a note about, how CDA, once we look at all the proposals coming in, if we see that there is a way to match up proposals to make a really strong contractor subcontractor relationship, we will do that.
There you go. Great, Brandy. Yeah. Sharing information in the chat seems to be an allowable thing. So, you guys have a little bit of an opportunity right now, I think, to know who's on the call and who is expressing interest in this process.
Any other questions coming in?
You've covered all the ones in the chat, Mickey.
So just to reiterate, if more questions come up, email Kathy Chang. Her email address is all over that RFP document, but I'll just plug it in again here in the chat. All inquiries will be, and their answers will be posted on VSS in our website. And then just to reiterate the timeline again, please submit your inquiries before June 5th. We'll take 2 days to respond to those last inquiries. And then the RFP submission period will close on June 14th. So, yeah. Let's see. just gonna put Kathy's email address in the chat. All right. Feel free to log off if you have asked your questions, you're ready to get on with the rest of your day. We will linger and this will still be recorded. So feel free to keep asking questions.
And just letting folks know, once the recording's been, wrapped up and posted on YouTube, I'll do the same thing. I'll share that link on VSS, and anyone can access the Spanish English version as well. So give us a couple days.
Can't thank you enough for being here today. It's really exciting to see all the faces of interested groups that are interested enough in this work to come to the information session. Really, really pleased to hear about how much this work has resonated with so many different groups. So yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah,
If somebody receives this 50,000 1 year, is it assumed that they would want to apply again? Or, I feel like I just don't know if like they have to get it again the next year, or if we should be looking for other people. You said it's, not, you said it's a one time per year, but like how many years can you do that?
exactly. Right. There's a lot of, that's a great question. And with this news being so new, there's a lot that has yet to be determined about the structure of the grant program, the phases of the grant that we'll have. I'll just say that what we're currently envisioning now is opening up the first round of the grant in August and having there be an application period at that time, and then opening up another one in the winter, right? So between those two phases, understanding, how much of this, what does the total funding request amount to? Do we need to increase our outreach efforts? And if so, to which regions, to which business types, et cetera. So there's a lot still to be determined here, but that's what we're envisioning now. So we need to encumber all of this $5.5 million before the end of the calendar year 2024. So it's unlikely there would be a third. It's not, it wouldn't, there will not be a third calendar year.
If we, got a few applications in August, different people could be applying later. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And we're based off of the level of interest that we're seeing for this work. We are not we are expecting this to be rather competitive. Just in that there is a lot of interest. We think with all this outreach work, we're expecting to be able to get the word out pretty broadly, right? So at this time, we're not really envisioning that, a prior applicant will just be automatically assumed to be in the pool for the second round of the grant. It would be a new proposal, a new application. Yeah.
And then again, I want to just, I think you've said it before, but this funding is intended to go towards, is it infrastructure? Is it Is it salaries? Like, please, like, tell me again.
So, and a lot of this is still being dialed in, right? Because our advisory committee is looking at this very closely and creating grant priorities, right? But as the bill states, the funding can be used for costly equipment like refrigeration units, display cases, coolers, cold storage, big purchases like that. It can also be used for POS systems that will accept SNAP and WIC. It can also be used for accounting and book management support, and it can also be used for operating expenses. We know operating expenses can include quite a number of things, including salaries. So we are still fine-tuning that with the help of our advisory committee to understand how best to lay out these opportunities for the most success for our applicants and the most impact in their communities. So that's a little bit of a non-answer, but that's where we're at right here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, are you guys gonna provide the marketing material?
That's a good question. Yes, we'll be working with all of our hired contractors and our communications team here at the Department of Ag, and we'll be creating materials. We'll be using our translation budget to translate them, and we'll make sure outreach contractors are equipped with the physical materials they need.
Okay, great.
Thanks for all your awesome questions, everyone.